Papua New Guinea are 165 in the FIFA World Rankings and are the first opponent of the OFC favourites for World Cup qualification, New Zealand. And we are joined by their central defender, Alwin Komolong, for another very special interview. Alwin, thank you so much for giving up some time to come and speak to us.
Oh, no, just glad to be here and pleasure talking to you guys.
So, obviously, we're going to get onto your international experiences, representing Papua New Guinea and all that. But firstly, can you sort of describe where does football actually kind of sit in the culture of Papua New Guinea as a national sport? What is it like back there in Papua New Guinea?
My personal opinion, I think, they say rugby league is a national sport here, but I feel like more people play soccer. It's played basically everywhere, from the islands to the highlands, in all major centres, minor centres. So I think a lot of people watch rugby league here, but more people are more involved with playing football here. It's more of a hobby, a thing to do. People love to go watch it and enjoy it. It's never really been like a profession to say. It's not something that people have really wrapped their heads around to really, that's a career, I can make a career of it. People have more or less just played and enjoyed it and then somehow ended up good and then sort of progressed their way up into playing for the national team. So, that's how it's been. That's what the culture is like here.
Oh, so what are your earliest memories of watching the PNG football team and kind of did you always dream of representing your country?
To be honest, I didn't really think about it. My earliest memories were watching, because there weren't any really national team games that were being played at home when I was growing up. It was more Oceania club football. So my earliest memories were watching Oceania club football and the international, like Fijians or some island teams that came over and played. And I remember it being like really amazing to watch. That club that actually were the champions at the time, they trained right in front of my house where I lived.
Oh, really?
I kind of knew all of them already, and I just grew up watching them and was just pretty much inspired by them. And the environment that we were in there was we just played every day. Yeah. Just outside the training field amongst ourselves. Yeah.
You've played in numerous kind of countries all over the world, haven't you? You've played New Zealand, America, Germany. How did those opportunities arise? And is going abroad to play football something that's actively encouraged in PNG? So if someone's got some footballing ability, is that something that's sort of discussed? You're a good player, you need to sort of try and test yourself abroad in potentially harder, more challenging leagues?
Yeah, good question, because here I wouldn't say it's really talked about or discussed. People always say, this guy could play there, but it's never really discussed. Let's see how we can get you there. Let's see what we can do to branch out our network and, see what the steps are to get you out there, get you seen. I don't think the system is really set up for that. My experience, how I got to where I got, it was just one thing just led to another. In essence, I found myself in the under-17 team at the time. I got seen in New Zealand. An opportunity popped up there. I went for it. Again, in New Zealand, the opportunity to go to the US popped up because I was playing well there. People saw me, and then one thing led to another. That's how it happened for me. I wasn't really actively shooting to go for that, but I just sort of loved playing football, enjoyed it, was good enough to be seen by the right people at the right time. Here I am.
You ended up actually at Fortuna Köln at one point. How did that come about? Just quickly on that, because when we were looking through your previous clubs, you've kind of you've spent some time at PNG and then New Zealand and then in America and then suddenly you're playing for a fairly established German league club. How did that come about?
Well, so I got to Germany initially through our coach at the time. So that's how I got my in there. He knew an agent there, a coach as well. I still had to go trial, and after 3 or 4 days, or after training camp, they basically said, "Yeah, we'll sign you." I was Stuttgarter Kickers at the time, so I had a year there, very up and down year, 3 coaches, relegation, all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty challenging year, but it really opened my eyes into what professional football is like. It's another experience. So I found myself probably half a year without a club. But luckily enough, at the time, I stayed with family up north of Hamburg. So there's a local club there, Holstein Kiel. They play in the second Bundesliga. And the coach was Ole Werner, who's now Werder Bremen coach. Yeah, so he was the under 23s coach at the time, and I just basically asked if I could just keep fit and train with him. And luckily enough, cool dude, top dog, he let me train and keep fit, and played all the played training matches and stuff and whatnot, and that sort of kept me through until the next opportunity came. And my coach at Stuttgart got the gig at Fortuna Köln, and that's one thing led to another. Went and trialed, and they were happy enough to sign me again. So that's how that happened.
Yeah, I mean it's quite the journey. I mean, you're one of the few players for PNG that's kind of had that international journey. I know there's a few players that played in New Zealand and things like that.
Yeah.
I sort of don't want to big you up too much, but are you sort of a well-known person in PNG for this is what you can achieve in terms of soccer?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I don't feel like my story too many people know. How I went there, it's happened, and people sort of talk about it. The people that really follow football know about it, but not necessarily the younger ones coming up. I don't think they know too much on what I had to go through to actually make it to their level. They see the pictures, see that name, but the journey is another story, and that's something that the reality of what people here sort of not fail to understand, but they're unaware of.
I mean, you've already mentioned as well how, when you were growing up, the sort of PNG, the international side of it wasn't a massive part, and obviously the club football, we know the OFC Champions League, for example, was quite a big tournament in that region. But when you did get that opportunity to play, I think it was in the 2016 Nations Cup World Cup Qualifiers sort of tournament. What do you remember about that experience? Was that a big experience for you personally to represent PNG?
It was my first time actually in the national team. So I got called up. I'd just come back from the States. We finished it was summer break, so I came back in. My brother had actually represented my PNG before me. They had played 2 friendlies against the Solomon Islands, so he was already sort of in there, and then I came in expecting to play in midfield, and then Fleming sort of just put us both at the back. At the time, it didn't really occur to me. It hit me like, oh, this is how big it is. I was just so focused on playing and playing well at home, and it was such a big opportunity. So, once we got to the final, that's when it really was like, wow, like we sold out the whole stadium. There are people climbing over the fences, that kind of thing. And then, to fall out in penalty shootouts, that's another thing. But the whole experience was massive.
Well, that sort of leads nicely into the next question, Alwin, in terms of, obviously, like you say, you get to the final of that tournament, you got New Zealand, you get all the way through 0-0 on penalties. Obviously, as a centre-back partnership, that's an incredible result, right, against New Zealand. And so it's probably a slightly kind of weird question, but when you play against New Zealand as one of sort of the other teams in Oceania, what is like a good? I know this is different because it's a cup final, but what is deemed like a good result against this New Zealand side? Do you approach it totally differently to every other game?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I would say the general tendency when you're playing New Zealand is, everyone tries to bring their A game. You're a bit more sharper. You're a bit more fire in you when you play against them because they're the big team. When we came to that final, it just felt like we had been playing the same all the way through the tournament, the way we played, the energy, that kind of thing. everyone just vibed with each other. It was just pretty much the same level all the way through to the final, and that's where we sort of brought it up to the next level. I think we knew we were capable of beating them. Home ground advantage as well helped, but yeah, in the end, penalties just go either way. So
yeah, a horrible way to lose, but still an incredible achievement to get to that. To get to penalties against New Zealand is an absolutely incredible achievement, especially for your first tournament in the national.
I was going to say, yeah. What a kind of experience for like your collection of first caps for the national team. You played a number of kind of different age brackets, didn't you, Alwin, before making that step up, and then so to do that, playing alongside your brother must have been, I dare say, like bitterly disappointing that particular result, but I dare say you look back at that tournament experience really quite fondly. So kind of let's talk about World Cup qualifiers. So the Oceania World Cup qualifiers are taking place in March in Qatar. Now, it's been, what has it been, 2.5 years since PNG last played like a competitive game. How much are you looking forward to getting back out there?
I'm massively looking forward to it. I love stepping out with the national team and playing. It's something different. It's something special. It's always something different when you pull on the jersey. I feel there could be all kinds of things happening off the field, but once you step on the field and you're playing for your country, it's just a different feeling. So I'm really looking forward to it.
We spoke to Timo Jankowski from the Fiji FA and kind of asked him the same question. But how much are you looking forward to playing in Qatar, and how different has their approach been to this qualification this time round, with it being abroad in Qatar rather than it being based in Oceania?
Yeah, it's weird because my first tournament experience was back at home in PNG, so it was fairly like used to everything, and now it's all the way in Qatar. Qatar is, everyone knows best. We're going to be the World Cup, where the World Cup is going to be hosted. So, we're expecting everything to be next level. With everything. Normally when it's in OFC, you have slight little stuff that go on here and there, quality of pitches, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a first for me as well. So I can't really say too much on what it's going to be like traveling to Qatar to play in Qatar. But I expect it to be really top notch. Like we've heard stuff that they're using this as like a test for the World Cup and stuff like that. So, I bet that's sorry, Tom, I just think that's I dare say the squad are just buzzing for that experience, just incredible. And the other thing is I think they might have VAR, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, really?
And that's something that none of us have ever experienced. Like, I'm not sure, but I would expect that all that goal line technology and VAR maybe put to use there.
Yeah, they did have the FIFA Arab Cup that they played in Qatar a few months ago, and that did have VAR at that tournament, so the stadiums are VAR ready. So that will be really interesting, especially for for OFC games. Yeah, for OFC, none of us have ever experienced anything like that. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, and the national side, you've got a lot of players from the same club that you play at, and obviously, most of the players based in PNG. I know there's a few that aren't, like Tommy Semi, for example, but you've got real established internationals in that. So I've seen a few international teams come out, and there's a few names that are slightly different for a few of the sides. You've got yourself, obviously you've got Felix as well, Michael Foster, David Muta. These players that are established internationals for PNG. We had a training camp a few weeks ago. What was the atmosphere like going into this tournament? Is everyone just so excited to get this underway?
We're actually in training camp right now, so I'm actually on my day off. I'm just on my day off, and sort of where the training camp is down the road from where I live, actually. So the vibe it's interesting because we've got a new coach, new all that kind of stuff, and it's been an adjustment. We had a lot of success with Fleming, obviously. So a lot of players are still probably nostalgic from the time when he was here. So it's been an adjustment. It's been a learning phase. So the vibe it's an interesting one. We're all geared up to play. I know everyone will once it comes tournament time to kick off, everyone will be buzzing to play, and that's all we're really looking forward to now. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you've already said about that OFC final game against New Zealand. I mean, I know there's no easy games in World Cup qualifiers, but you've got what you could probably say is the tougher group in Group B.
Yeah.
Obviously New Zealand up first, and then New Caledonia and Fiji making up the rest of the group. That's a very, very strong group for this tournament.
Yeah.
What is the ambition for this PNG side?
Pretty much to do as well as we can. I mean, I don't really like to get ahead of myself with these things. Just take one game at a time. We've got New Zealand first up. We know we need a result, and then we've got New Caledonia, which historically we haven't really done well against. So my goal would be to do as well as we can against them, get a result, and then we got Fiji, who have Fleming, our former coach there. So that'll be another big challenge to play against them. But I expect that we'll be giving everything 100% on and off the field. I mean, it's in training as well. The mood is really geared towards playing well, and these kinds of things always lead to big opportunities for players. So that's what we're really focused on. Yeah.
Is the opportunities that can stem from you turn up on the biggest, this is potentially the biggest stage for a lot of the players and for these nations. Is that thought of, if I play well here, opportunities can create themselves. Is that something that is actively thought about or actively spoken about as part of preparation for these games? Or is it far more like full focus on the game? If the performance comes and the opportunities come from it, that's something else that will deal with itself?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, it's not really talked about on coaching level down, but amongst the players, because we have such an experienced group from the last, speaking from the last tournament that we had, after the last tournament, we had about 6, 7, 8 guys that just went abroad. Opportunities popped up, Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah.
We had one guy go even play professionally in Malaysia as a result of playing well in that tournament. So it's actively talked about amongst the players. But also it's a mix of both. We also talk about focus on the game as well, and it goes hand in hand. You focus on the game, you play well, that'll lead to the rest.
Yeah, for sure. Now, just as Tom's mentioned, the tough group and the games you've got coming up. What's and I appreciate you won't be able to go into too much insight, but new manager and everything. What's kind of the tactical approach going into these games? Now, yourself and Felix are spoken about as an extremely solid partnership, and typically PNG have been renowned for having a solid foundation at the back and kind of building from that. Do you try and use that defensive solidity again and sort of operate with a more counter-attacking style, or have you got a bit more of an aggressive offensive mindset, Alwin? Kind of what's the approach going, especially considering the tough opponents that you've got in this qualification?
Yeah, I mean, naturally in Papua New Guinea, the style is very offensive-minded. A lot of midfield play, a lot of touches, getting in behind. It's very offensive-minded. We've never been really a country that's focused on being strong at the back or being strong in the goalkeeping department, that kind of stuff. So I think me and Felix, after that tournament, brought in something different to the team. We sort of balanced it out a bit. Now we've got good defenders. We'd like to see more good defenders and balance that out with the attacking options that we have now. Going into the tournament, I can say, we'll probably be looking to attack a lot. It's just in our nature, the way we play naturally. It's the habits that people have grown up with here. So can expect to see a lot of that happening, and hopefully we can keep it solid at the back and keep it organized,
Yeah, no, for sure. If you had to pick one PNG player to watch this tournament, who would you go for?
Boy, that's a tough question.
You can't say yourself or your brother.
We've got one or two interesting young ones, and then another few sort of half new guys to the team that are pretty explosive, I would say. There's one young guy. His name's Pala Paul. He's impressed me lately. Going into the prep, he's young, but he's very motivated and very skillful, quick. Typical PNG type of player, quick, loves to go forward, that kind of stuff. But I think Tommy Sammy as well. He's going to be a big dynamic for us. I think I'd say Tommy Sammy should really stand out in this, considering where he's been playing lately and where he's come from. He's been abroad, and I think that I tip him to give us a lot of firepower going forward.
Yeah, interesting. Really looking forward to seeing that. Now, just I guess a final one from me, kind of taking it back to, I guess we spoke about the where sort of soccer sits within the PNG culture. What do these World Cup qualification matches mean to the people of PNG?
For the wider football community here, I think people are really looking forward to seeing us play, because they don't really see the national team play very often. The trend has been lately, you play one tournament, play another 2 years later, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of expectation. I can understand that expectation going into it. It will be interesting because, again, we haven't played in a while. The squad has aged a bit since we last played a big tournament like the Nations Cup. So the culture, they're very supportive people, I would say, for the most part. I think either way they'll be very supportive of how we play. I think people are paying a lot of attention to how we play, not necessarily the result. I think that gets talked about a lot. It's just typical football supporter banter in amongst themselves. But when we come back, it's just business normal. Family, friends are there for you. So
Brilliant.
Alwin, some quick fire questions to finish up.
Yep.
Answer as quickly as possible if you can. So, who is your favourite Papua New Guinea player of all time, apart from yourself and your brother?
Of all time, I'm going to say Devani.
Yeah.
Reginald Devani. Nice. Yeah.
Best Papua New Guinea game that you have been involved in?
Best game. We played Tahiti away in a World Cup qualifier, and we needed a result. We had arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning on match day in Tahiti. Had to play at 7 o'clock at night that night, and we beat them. First time for PNG to win a game abroad or in Tahiti that time. So that was a pretty special one, yeah.
That's just an amazing answer. I don't think you'll have any of that in Qatar. I don't think you'll have any of that in Qatar.
Crazy story, yeah.
The best, from any opposition team, the best Oceania player that you've ever played against?
Best Oceania player. Oh, I have to think back. That's a really tough one because there's so many good ones.
Yeah. There's a lot of good forwards in the Oceania region, for sure.
There's a lot of good forwards, yeah.
Who's caused you and Felix the most tricky 90 minutes?
The most tricky, I'd say, we played at the Pacific Games Samoa. Roy Krishna, he's one. He's a tricky one. He's a tricky one because he's deceptively strong. Yeah. He's very feisty, but top bloke off the field, top bloke.
Well, obviously you have them again in the World Cup qualifiers.
On the field he's a feisty. I love the challenge of him. Off the field, great guy, good mate.
And the last one, apart from New Zealand, which I think you've already mentioned it potentially, which other team from the OFC generally gives you as PNG the toughest test?
New Caledonia.
Yeah. Because
they're always pretty good at these tournaments. They always do well. So I like playing against New Caledonia because they've got a lot of good dynamic players, quick as well, similar to PNG. So yeah, I'd say them.
Yeah, absolutely. The physicality of New Caledonia is that's something you definitely see. And obviously Bertrand Kai up front, who's again in the World Cup qualifiers, absolute legend of the game, I'm sure. So I'm sure you can appreciate. But Alwin, that is all from us. And the big game to look forward to, the first game coming up March 18th, New Zealand versus Papua New Guinea in Qatar. What an event it is going to be. We're so excited for this one, Alwin. But the main thing for us to say is just thank you so much for giving up some time to come and speak to us.
Oh, no problem. No problem. No problem at all.
And to all of our viewers, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and check out our latest video and all you need to know on the OFC qualifiers that are coming up in March. And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.